You're listening to CHSR 97.9 FM. Welcome to This Week in Fredericton, the show that takes a deep dive into the latest news from your community. I'm your host, Zach Roman, and in this week's episode, we talk to the team behind a company creating a unique soil product with seaweed, and an associate professor at UNB that led a team in creating a course for healthcare professionals about addressing barriers to reproductive healthcare in correctional settings. A new Fredericton-based company, driven by research from a University of New Brunswick PhD student, is converting seaweed into biochar that improves soil health and crop resilience. SeaGreen Solutions is run by PhD student and seaweed researcher Marie Dankworth and videographer Joel Thompson. The entrepreneurial pair have also brought on UNB Forestry and Environmental Management student Catherine Olton to help out with a pilot project that SeaGreen Solutions is involved with this summer. SeaGreen Solutions has partnered with the City of Fredericton to use its biochar in city planters along Queen Street in an effort to improve soil moisture retention and plant health. The results of planters with SeaGreen's biochar will be compared against those without, and early observations seem promising. Dankworth says there's many benefits to her company's seaweed biochar.
Biochar has three key benefits. It locks in the carbon for hundreds to thousands of years, and as well it has moisture holding capacity. So if you use it in soil, you can water less and your plants are thriving. And as well, our seaweed-based biochar has also ocean nutrients because the seaweed is growing in the ocean. And when we turn it into biochar, it keeps the nutrients. So really beneficial for flowers and all gardeners, what they're growing. It's really helpful.
Dankworth's journey to becoming an entrepreneur has been years in the making.
I'm originally from Germany, and I came here for my PhD in seaweed to Canada in 2017. And I started the entrepreneur journey like 2 years ago, I would say. I took an online course with Dalhousie. It's called Lab to Discover. And they were kind of like encouraging using your scientific knowledge to solve real-world problem. And so, I thought more about how can we use seaweed and, maybe be a part of a climate solution. How can we use seaweed on a daily basis? How can we spread the word for the seaweed? Because it has lots of great opportunities to use, and, it's an underutilized resource in Atlantic Canada. I'm still in the research world. My PhD is close to being done, so hopefully this year. It's been very interesting in regards of like how to tell your story about your startup, and it's very different from the scientific world because often you work on your thesis or your data set, and it's quite isolating. In the startup world, you have a lot of excited people who want to learn more about your ideas. They want to learn about your story. So it's a very, it's a different world, but very exciting. So I really appreciate dipping into that and being a part of it. It really helped me too to like be a little bit more confident with my career in that sense, because a PhD student in STEM, it's quite, I think, we don't really celebrate ourselves too much there. And I think we should, because we do a lot of work, which is really important. And the scientific papers we write, not many read them because they're really like technical. So I think we need to speak more about what we do and lift each other up and be supportive.
Thompson told CHSR how SeaGreen turns seaweed into biochar.
So it's essentially you're heating the seaweed in a low oxygen environment. And we're also we're working with RPC research facility just close here to UNB at determining, the optimal temperatures, the optimal, because seaweed also has to be rinsed at a certain point in the process because of the sodium content. So the process in making it into biochar involves several things. Drying of the seaweed. Of course, seaweed, when you first remove it from the shores, is sometimes around 80% moisture, 80, 90, depending on how long it's been sitting there. High moisture content. So we're looking at, processes on before transporting it, how we can, partially dry it. But then, to make the biochar, you're just essentially, recently to make the biochar, we're heating with propane burners. This is not long-term how we'll do it, but, essentially you do have to heat it up and keep the oxygen low, because you're trying to make a very refined charcoal. Like Marie said, it's like charcoal, but a very low ash content, and you don't want it to combust. So you don't want flames, you just want really, really high temperature. And everything burns off. It creates a lot of, there's syn gases, there's bio oils. So we're exploring also, the value chain there, what can be done with those things, including cycling them back into the heating process. So in which case we would be, utilizing a lot less energy to create the biochar, because we really want our process to be as sustainable as possible. We're hoping to get, net negative when it comes to the CO2 emissions and greenhouse emissions, because I think one of the value kind of pieces there for the biochar is not only is it improving soil, but it also stores that CO2 that the seaweed has sequestered while growing for hundreds or thousands of years, like Marie said. So there's a climate element to it too that we're trying to refine. The charcoal or the carbon that you put in the soil is almost like little apartment complexes for nutrients and minerals and microbes. And so it's very porous, the biochar. So because it's porous, it has a ton of surface area. And so these nutrients, minerals, all these things can basically be stored in those pores. And then it kind of, because it's stored over time, it doesn't leach when it rains as much. So you're not losing as much of nutrients. So if it's used in tandem with fertilizer, it allows you to use less fertilizer. The thing with our biochar, because it's seaweed based, it does contain more nutrients and minerals. But because of that, we're not just a carbon product being put in the soil that stores nutrients and minerals. We're actually, there are sea or ocean-based nutrients and minerals that are contained in the seaweed biochar, which is an amazing thing. It will actually benefit the soil, but it also, like I said, puts us in a gray area with being certified. So we're just going through the process of that, which every company needs to go through. There's certifications and things. We've had a lot of amazing help, people reaching out, and because it's our first time going through trying to certify a soil product, we're getting a lot of advice, a lot of advisors kind of helping us through that process, which can be a little confusing and intimidating. But we're like I said, it's kind of the thing that makes us unique and gives us value, but also it's slowed us down a little.
Olsen has played a major role in helping SeaGreen Solutions this summer.
Yeah, so I did a lot of the production of the product, as well as now I'm doing the daily monitoring of the flower pots downtown on Queen Street. And we have 11 pots that contain biochar, and we have 5 control pots that we compare against. And we have a Dr. Soil multimeter and a moisture meter that I take with me every day to the flower pots and take measurements and write them all down, and then put them in Excel. And we use all the data in Excel to kind of make some graphs and analyze the data and make it into something that we can, valuable information that can be used to tell a story and tell us what the biochar is doing in the soil and what the control pots are doing and how our pots are growing differently than the control pots. The biochar was only put in the pots, I think it was around June 10th. And so since then, I've been monitoring every day. And so far, I've noticed quite a few differences, quite a few things, like the minerals, for example, like nitrogen, for example, is a lot higher in our pots than in the control pots. And the biochar seems to be keeping that quite consistent. And the moisture in the biochar pots is also staying much more consistent than our control pots, where we've noticed, since it hasn't been raining, we've noticed a lot of the moisture stays a lot longer in the pots in our biochar compared to the control pots.
For this pilot project, we partnered with someone from PEI. They are called Organic Atlantics.
Atlantic Organics? Yeah, something. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
You almost had it.
So we ordered from there because they have beach cast, and they collect it with horses, with rigs, so the CO2 footprint is very low. And we partnered with them because we had like a time crunch basically to deliver the product to the city because it's very seasonal. But long term, we want to go to the beaches and collect ourselves the beach cast. There is some regulations with, provincial or the government, which we have to figure out. But that's our goal, to collect the seaweed from the beaches ourselves and then use it.
This pilot project is not only valuable, to the city as kind of an experimental, could this work to help us irrigate less, spend less on labor for watering and things like that. But for us, we get to see, when it's used in this setting, and it can be extrapolated into like other settings as well, home gardeners, whatever, what is the value that we're getting out of that during the run of that season.
Thompson and Dankworth said the Fredericton startup community has been very helpful during their entrepreneurial journey.
And you get these people, you have these meetings where they're just like, they believe in what you're doing and they're excited about it, and they're talking about, we can connect you to this person or that person. And it really is like such a supportive community, the startup world. So I could name, we could spend an hour naming the people who have helped us along and who have, given their time. They're not getting paid to give you their time, they're not like, they sit down, they have coffee with you, they give you advice, they connect you to people they know.
It can be stressful, but I think mostly it's very rewarding to try the entrepreneur world, or just go down that path. It's very, you learn a lot about yourself.
The story of SeaGreen Solutions is proof you never know where life might take you.
I went to the ocean with students when I was 18. So I didn't really know what I want to do with my life back then after high school. And in Europe, people do a little bit more soul searching after high school. We don't really go right to university because you don't know what you want to do in most cases. So I went to France and traveled a little bit. And I saw seaweed the first time in the ocean, and I was fascinated how beautiful it is. And it was like an underwater garden, and I was like, that's so cool. And I didn't know about it, so I want to study it. And yeah, I kind of was fascinated and surprised. We don't know much about seaweed in that sense. So yeah, that fascinated me and I want to study it.
If you're interested in following SeaGreen Solutions' journey, there's many places you can do so.
We are on social media, on Instagram, LinkedIn, very active as well, Facebook, and Joel has a YouTube channel set up for us, which is...
Well, I would say that a lot of those are SeaGreen Solutions NB. So a lot of times if you just look up SeaGreen Solutions, you might not find us. But if you add NB, so New Brunswick, but just the abbreviation, NB, you should find us. But then, yeah, YouTube, I'm trying to think. I think if you just look that up too, you'll find us. But really, we're going to have that all contained. Our website's still being worked on, but SeaGreenSolutions.ca is our website right now. Like I said, we're kind of, in the process of refining that website. But right now, if you go there is information. You can link to our YouTube channel there. And I think there's a contact form. So if you're interested in reaching out, we've had some people just say, hey, I'd like to try it in my garden. And so we're kind of keeping people posted on when they're able to do that. If anyone, listening has a garden center or somewhere where they'd like to trial it, or they have an organic farm, we're definitely interested in doing that.
If you're just tuning in, you're listening to This Week in Fredericton, the show that takes a deep dive into the latest news from your community. I'm your host, Zach Roman, and thanks for listening to CHSR 97.9 FM.